When the principal of my daughter's school called her stupid in front of the whole class, I was so angry. Can you imagine an educator saying that to a child? Skylar was diagnosed with ADHD in fifth grade after her teacher kept complaining about her lack of organization, follow through, and forgetfulness. This was in the early 2000s, and I guess there was less understanding back then about ADHD. The psychiatrist who tested her gave us no advice on how to help her other than maybe taking medication. Her school counseled us to leave, which is apparently what many private schools still do. I hired special ed tutors to teach her, but that really didn't work out for us. I tried to teach her myself, but that was not good either. She was a preteen and she did not want to work with her mother. So I moved Skylar to a public school in town. It was called Nest Plus M, which stood for New Explorations in Science, Technology, and Math, where the principal, who knew about Skylar's ADHD, promised that she would get a lot of after-school help. I should have known that a school with science, technology, and math in the name wasn't going to work, as these were Skylar's worst subjects. But I was desperate, and the principal said they could help. She wasn't at Nest very long before we started getting one pink failure notice after another in the mail. One day, the principal came into Skylar's classroom to inspect all the children's notebooks. She took one look at Skylar's notebook, which I'm sure was a mess, but she held it up for the whole class to see, and she said, "What are you, stupid?" I couldn't believe it. I took her out of that school so fast, and the principal had the gall to say to me, "Why did you take her out?" Oh my gosh. After Nest, we moved Skylar to a school called York, and they assured us that they had many students with ADHD, but she continued to struggle with the same problems, getting her work done, forgetting to turn her work in, not studying for her tests. Eventually, we got a letter from the headmaster telling us that Skylar wasn't making it, and we should look for another school. By then, we'd been through 4 schools, so we decided we would move to a whole new city where we thought we found a school that would be good for her. So once we got her in, I called York and I let them know that she wouldn't be back in the fall. The headmaster seemed incredulous when I called. "Why would you take her out?" he asked me. "Well, you sent us that letter that said she wasn't making it and that we should find another school," I told him. "Oh, no. We were just trying to scare her into working harder," he told me. "We think she's really, really smart, but she's just lazy. We never really meant that she should leave." Scare her into working harder? Skylar had ADHD, a real neurological condition, a disorder of executive function and self-regulation. Scaring her was not going to fix the problem. And calling her lazy for not being able to handle her schoolwork? That's like telling someone who can't hear that they're lazy because they're not listening well enough. Her ADHD diagnosis came with so many challenges that she couldn't manage her learning. She struggled to start her work, to stick with her work, to organize, to plan, to manage her time, all the things that if you're struggling with, it just makes school so hard. I remember saying so many times, "Will I ever get this child through high school?" In the end, she went to 5 schools, and despite my wishful thinking, there was no magic school out there that really could support her. Now, back then, there wasn't a lot of information about ADHD, but now I think there really is. And so my hope is that your child is in a school that's supportive and empathetic and understanding and that really knows how to help kids with ADHD. I hope it is not the way it was for us. I hope it is not that way for you. But we didn't just experience humiliation from our educators. No. friends and relatives would say things to me like they might say ADHD is a made up condition. It's just an excuse for kids not to grow up and take responsibility for themselves. Others suggested that she just needed more discipline or that ADHD was invented by big pharma so they could sell stimulants. The good news is Skylar did eventually graduate and she went on to a very competitive acting program where she just loved the work and she was determined to succeed. And it was at this time that she became so motivated to learn workarounds and adopt new habits that would help her manage her executive skills that had been tripping her up so badly. It wasn't easy, and I know it required her to work against her natural impulses, but she did it. And even though she still deals with ADHD today and executive function challenges, now she has all these hacks that work for her. And she's doing so well in her career and in her personal life now. But looking back, getting Skylar through school was painful for both of us. We fought constantly because I couldn't understand why she wasn't doing better. I would tell her, just work harder, focus more, pay closer attention, as if these were actions she could just take with her ADHD brain. She was made to feel bad about herself by educators, friends, relatives, strangers, and worst of all, by me. To this day, I regret not knowing how to help Skylar when she was young and needed me the most. During her struggles, I didn't understand how to help her. When she was diagnosed, nobody even mentioned the words executive function to me. So I didn't understand how poor executive function was such an integral part of an ADHD diagnosis. We tried medication, which I thought at the time, oh, this will cure her. Well, no, it didn't. And it won't. Then I hoped against hope that the professionals would know what to do. And if I could find just the right school, they'd do whatever educators do to fix ADHD. But that didn't come to pass either. Skylar's struggles motivated me to start HabitCoach with John Zeitlin, who is a top expert in ADHD and executive function. I didn't want other parents and kids to go through what Skylar and I did. And it wasn't until John and I started working on HabitCoach that I began to learn all the things I didn't know before when Skylar was young that I didn't know about ADHD. But in trying to start this business, I really turned myself into an expert. And now I have such a much better understanding of how it works, how it's diagnosed, what poor executive function skills can do to a person, and how you have to step in to help. But while I was learning all that, it's like the puzzle pieces just kind of really came together for me. The more I learned, the more I started recognizing myself in all those behaviors that are brought about by executive function deficits. I learned that there's like a 91% chance that someone with ADHD inherited it from their parents. And I thought about my father, who spent so much of his life trying to find himself. He had trouble working for other people, and he dealt with many business failures. And I wondered if he might have had ADHD at a time when nobody really knew what it was. So I got myself assessed, and sure enough, I have ADHD. And in trying to make amends for not having been able to help my daughter, and in trying to prevent other people from having to suffer the way the two of us did, I uncovered something about myself that I never expected. For me, the diagnosis has been a gift. It explains so much about this lifetime of struggles that I've had with memory, distraction, impulsivity, organization, and many, many more things. At the same time, my new knowledge helps me understand how my ADHD brain has paved the way for many of my accomplishments as well. I'm living both the pluses and the minuses of having this condition. And I'm excited to help other parents feel hopeful, knowledgeable, and empowered if they discover that their child has ADHD or weak executive function. So that's my story, or my daughter and my story together. It's all very entwined, and I would love to hear your story as well.